Hey y'all, and welcome back to our channel. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this split pastel rainbow ombre tumbler. We're using the Steel Magnolia 32-ounce plump, and they also sell craft crate chucks on their website, and this is the extra small size, which fits all of the Steel Magnolia plumps, and it screws into the threads in the Steel Magnolia tumblers and holds it really tight on your tumbler turner. And it's been a huge help using these so that I can get my tumblers level on the turner and not have to worry about foams kind of getting wonky on me as I use them. So to mark off my center point, I'm actually just going to use the screw holes in the chuck as my guide. There's one on either side, so I'm going to put my tape right along the inside of those screw holes, and that's going to mark the center point on my tumbler. If you don't have one of these, you can actually, the easiest way that I do this is take a piece of paper, wrap it around the tumbler, trim it to the dimensions of the tumbler, fold it in half, boom, you have your center marking points. I have actually had this cup sitting with the glitter and no decals for quite some time. COLORFLEX sent me all of these paints and coordinating glitters back in February. I believe some of these, the pastel set was actually something for Valentine's Day. So my original idea didn't work out quite as I planned, but I did find some decals to go on this that I feel matched it perfectly. So for our paint colors, we are using, of course, the COLORFLEX COLORFIX 3-in-1 paint and primer. And that is blush, navel, banana cream, mint, sky, and lilac. Lilac we will be doing by itself on the other side once we finish our ombre. And my original idea for this was to have a ombre on this side, the solid purple on the opposite side, and then some sort of swirl of the rainbow colors over top of the purple to tie everything in together. I did give that idea a couple of attempts and it just really didn't look right to me, and I was going to have to add some pinstriping on there and it just made it too much, I think. So our final idea turned out really well, but just so you know, my original idea for having that solid purple on the back. If you are using an acrylic paint or COLORFLEX paints, whatever you have on hand indoors rather than spray paint, you want to have a couple of paintbrushes on hand so you're not constantly having to wash them off. I do use makeup brushes to apply my paint. They're really soft, so it's like a high quality paintbrush, and it really helps blend those colors in together. Since the bristles are so soft, you don't get any lines or streaking in your paint. So I'm going to paint on the main colors on this side, sort of in color blocks, working pretty quickly so my paint does not dry by the time I get to the bottom. So once I finish all of those colors, I can go in between them and blend them out just a bit. It doesn't have to be perfect because this is going to take a couple of layers of paint. So I'm just going to blend them as best as possible on this first time, and then we'll really work our colors into each other on the second layer. I'm going to dry the paint up with my heat gun on low heat setting and then set it to the side so it can cool down for a moment before I start adding on that second layer. If you go right into adding your paint after you have used your heat gun, your paint's going to dry really quickly. You will get some streaking and it won't look as nice. So just make sure you do give it a little bit of time to cool down. Once I have all my paint colors on here, I'm either going to sit it to the side and allow it to air dry or dry that up with my heat gun and then give it a few minutes just to cool down before I go in with my glitter glue. I'm going to do a nice even coat of this and maybe just a hair more than I typically would on just a solid color glitter. We're blending a lot of colors here, so I don't want my glue to dry on me before I finish up my ombre. I don't think I show the colors of the glitter as I am using them, and I'm sorry, I normally do that. I think I just didn't since I had them all laying out, but I will have them all listed below under the COLORFLEX link so you can see all of the glitter colors and paint colors that we used for this design. I'm going to go heavy around that top rim and then just hold my tumbler at an angle and allow the glitter to fall down into the next color. Once I have started my following colors, I'll go in the center of that paint color with that coordinating glitter, tilt my tumbler back and forth, allowing for that second glitter or following glitter to go into the last and into the next. You can also get a really good ombre by holding your tumbler straight. Sometimes the tilting does hurt my wrist, so you can hold your tumbler straight. Be very, very light-handed on your glitter. Very lightly dust it into those sections and do multiple passes with each glitter after you have went over the entire tumbler. So I would say 2 to 3 layers of glitter will really help you blend your colors in together and avoid having to tilt your tumbler back and forth. The key to getting a really good ombre from me is time. Make sure you are giving yourself enough time to really blend those colors in together and layer them up to get that perfect ombre. You cannot get a good ombre by rushing yourself and clumping that glitter up in areas. So go really light on your glitter and take your time. As soon as I finished this ombre, I removed my tape and added on my lilac COLORFLEX paint on the opposite side. I gave this 2 coats of paint because you really do want a good solid paint underneath these glitters. I actually did attempt to put it directly on white, and it definitely changed the colors of the glitters. I believe they have a little bit of either clear or opals mixed into them, so you want to give yourself a really good solid base before adding these glitters on. Once you have all of your glitter glue on there nice and even, then you can add on that final color. I just dumped this on. Once I finished adding on my purple, I knocked off any excess and gave this a couple hours to dry, and then spray sealed it a few times with Rust-Oleum matte clear coat before we went in with epoxy. I gave this 2 coats of epoxy, sanding in between my layers so it was nice and smooth to add on our decals. It sat like this, like I said, for quite a while. I was cleaning up my craft room and come across this sheet from Gracefully Created. This was actually part of one of my latest bundles, and I thought, hey, this would look perfect on that rainbow pastel ombre. These decals have some light colors in them, and they're sort of like retro groovy, and I felt the tumbler definitely gave that vibe as well. So I'm going to trim out around all of these florals and add them on to the tumbler. I tried to strategically place the larger decals over the seam in between our ombre and our solid purple, just to cover up as much of that as possible so it can minimize the amount of pinstriping we have to do right there along that seam. I did have to reposition some of these quite a bit. I am going to let all of that play through just so you can see my process on getting these where I wanted them. The good thing is the Gracefully Created decals are removable vinyl. That does not mean they're going to lift once you epoxy. These are really stuck to your tumbler or whatever project you're working on. It just means that you can remove them after you have already placed them a couple of times and it not leave any residue behind or damage your image because it's on a permanent vinyl. I really love that it's on the removable. It just saves me so much stress knowing that I can reposition them if I need to. You just want to make sure that you do apply them to a glossy and not sanded or unepoxied surface, because that will show underneath the decals once you apply epoxy on top. If you put them on a glossy surface, put epoxy over top of them and it will make those edges disappear. Another thing is you want to avoid touching the back of these as much as possible. If you leave fingerprints on the clear area of your decal, just trim that off with a craft knife, and you also don't want them to overlap. If they by chance overlap, cut yourself a seam around the top flower and remove the excess vinyl on top and underneath, and it will appear as it is a seamless like cluster rather than layered on top of each other. And all of those that I put over the top or bottom rim, I used my vinyl trimmer from Cami Page Boutique with the half spacer and trimmed off the excess vinyl. For our pinstriping, I'm going to use this white from PDB Creative Studio. I'm going to use the medium width from the pack, put it right down our seam, and then I'm going to use my craft blade to trim around the florals that we have on the tumbler to make it appear as if our florals are layered over top of our pinstripe. I did notice that giant blank spot in the yellow when I was adding on this pinstripe, and I did go back and add in a little flower there. There's no need to seal any of this in. You just want to make sure it's all pressed down really well. Focus on the edges of your decals and give it a little push on top of all of your pinstriping so it won't lift after you put your epoxy on. Another one that didn't turn out exactly how I planned, but I really love the final result. I think it's cute, retro, and definitely an awesome springtime design. If y'all have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below and I'll answer them as quickly as possible. All the materials that I have used in this tutorial will be listed in the description along with some coupon codes. If you aren't already part of the Brittany Barnes Boutique Tumbler art group, I would really love to have you in there. It's an awesome group where we love on each other's creations and I give you extra tips and tricks and keep you up to date on all new products and new releases. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell in the corner to be notified anytime a new tutorial drops. That's all for today. Thank you all so much and we'll see you next time.